Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today will be Norman Jordan. We thank our sponsor, Wellspire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center. Wellspire offers personal and professional development opportunities in a beautiful facility in the Gulch neighborhood. Stop by for an event with world-renowned speakers or host an off-site event that will wow your team or your clients. We thank our co-sponsor, the Well Coffee House, which turns coffee into water and has a mission to bring clean water to the world. Today's news presented by Sutherland & Belk, a Nashville-based injury law firm. Sutherland & Belk is committed to fighting for those who've been injured in car, motorcycle, and truck accidents. Check them out at sbinjurylaw.com. Vanderbilt and Missouri play this Saturday, kickoff 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. Our guest line, presented by Boll & Branch, started by Vanderbilt graduates Scott and Missy Tannen. I've slept on their sheets for years. They're phenomenal. Had no clue how comfortable they were until I got them. They are also fair trade certified. That means they're made under safe conditions by men and women who were treated and paid fairly. Try them for a month. You can return them for free, but trust me, you won't want to. Once you get the sheets, try the mattress. That was voted best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That's spelled B-O-L-L. Enter the promo code VANDY to get $50 off your first set of sheets. Norman Jordan, our guest today. Norman is the color commentator for Vanderbilt football on the radio. Norman, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris. How about you?
I'm doing splendidly. Let's talk football because we have to. And
that's what they do. We have to.
Well, I think that's the purpose of the podcast. I don't. I'm out of work. What have you got?
I mean, just a disappointing weekend. I mean, that's all I can say. You go out there and you hope that they play well, and we just didn't see it this weekend. And I have nothing really to say. I mean, it's just I played in some of the worst years of Vanderbilt football in '78 and '79, and it was dark. So I mean, I've been through this, and there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. But that was a tough game.
Stuff like that a lot of times. I talked about this with Mitch Light. If you have just a really bizarre game, sometimes that is an opening game of the season, or as Mitch made a great point, that's a game where you're -4 or 5 in turnovers or something. That was not the case at all. Or maybe sometimes it's a last game or two of the season where bowl eligibility is out of the picture. That was none of those things.
No, I mean, it was an anomaly. I mean, it was not an anomaly. It wasn't what we've not seen already, but you go out and you play a team like UNLV that you feel like, and the experts feel like you're a 17-point favorite, and you wind up getting blown out in your own stadium. There's just not a lot of silver lining in that cloud.
Let's just go to the mailbag, if that's cool with you.
I'm good.
Today's mailbag is sponsored by Vanderbilt fan and independent insurance agent Josh Minton of Brentwood. Are you in the market for auto, motorcycle, home, renters, or landlord insurance? What about life or commercial insurance? Call Josh at 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him on Facebook, facebook.com/JDMintonHQ. He's my insurance agent. Hope you'll make him yours. By the way, on the note of futility, congratulations to the Cardinals for finally scoring a run. I'm watching this as we on Tuesday night. There's a little bit of bitter Braves fan of me there. Anyway.
Yeah, I understand.
Door fan says, why are we having such difficulty getting our star tight end the ball? With the offense so stagnant, I would like to think we would have involved Pinckney because he creates matchup problems.
No, I can't disagree with that at all. I mean, the issue that you get when you've got a linebacker on a tight end is that he's faster than most linebackers. And the issue that you get when you got a defensive back on a tight end is he's bigger and he can go out there and muscle his way in and make the catch. And I think he had his 13th catch on Saturday, and I don't remember off the top of my head how many he had last year. But I mean, you're missing a vital part of what's going on here. I can just go back to my time in playing. If we didn't have Alamar Matthews, we didn't really have the offense that we had, because Al had a great sense of going in behind linebackers and keeping them honest. And on that rare occasion when we did run, it opened it up, but it also opened it up for the under game and the over game on passing. So, I think it's a critical element of the passing game. And we had a guy come back and, he's not seeing the ball or he's not getting open. I'm not sure which one it is, but I mean, it's been a difficult situation to watch.
Well, I asked Mitch about this Monday. I want your answer because you know X's and O's better than either of us. But not to knock James Bostic. I admire that kid. He has battled to make himself relevant, battled injuries, those sorts of things. And any kid that does that, hats off to him. But James Bostic was not exactly at the top of the list of pass catchers going into this year. He was a third teamer to start the season. What do you make of him getting 10 targets and nobody else on the team getting more than 5?
I would say, looking at it from a defensive coordinator standpoint, is I'm going to take the guy that I think that cannot get the job done, and I'm not saying that about James, but the guy that I think will hurt me the least, and give him the most freedom and take away the other targets. And I mean, that's just the way I would look at it if I were a defensive coordinator. So, if you got one guy that's consistently the one that's getting the read, either you got misreads or you got a situation where you really need to get that guy the ball.
Another one from Door Fan, quoting from an article on ViewCommodores.com, you said of the 82 team, we started believing in ourselves after the Mississippi game. That was a turning point as it had been for Vanderbilt football. That was, I think he meant as a turning point. But anyway, we went on the field believing we were not the underdog. We thought we could play with anybody. We never felt we were outclassed. With Watson as the offensive coordinator, the offense was greater than the sum of its parts. I remember that 82 season well, and you all were so fun to watch. It appears this year's offense is less than the sum of its parts. Do you agree? And if so, why or why not? By the way, I was not trying to insult your grammar there. I thought I had misread it, but it was wrong on the paper. But anyway, go for it.
Well, I mean, really, it was 11 people out there and 11 people getting the job done, and we all knew we had each other's back, and it was very much like a military operation where you just felt like, all right, he's going to take care of his job, he's going to take care of his job, so I don't have to worry about anything but my job, and that's kind of the way the whole team worked. And we really felt like we were in every game that we played after the Ole Miss game. We went down and played Alabama, and we got beat by 24-21. We could kick the field goal and tied them, but you didn't tie Bear Bryant. That's just not what you do. So, we just felt like there's nobody we can't play with. And we went on a really good run that, everybody enjoyed, and, sadly still kind of lore for Vanderbilt football all these years later.
I think you have answered this one before, but the questioner may not have heard it. Throughout your career, who is a player you do not enjoy seeing on the other side of the ball?
I won't narrow it down to one. I would say Bruce Smith. And that was brutal. I had to hit him one time. There was one time more than I wanted to hit him. He still doesn't know I hit him. You had E.J. Jr. at Alabama, who was so big, so strong, so fast. I mean, I just want to know where he was every moment of every play. You had the great defensive end, outside linebacker for Florida, that played for the Redskins. His name escapes me. He's on the wall of Glory down there in Florida.
Wilbur Marshall. Is that who it was?
Yeah, Wilbur Marshall.
Yeah.
Yeah. They made me play tight end that game just so Wilbur would have to run around me. It wasn't, I remember watching him. I mean, normally you don't have to block him. You just got to make him run around you. And so we had a 5'9", 185-pound tight end playing against Wilbur Marshall. That was a lot of fun. Terry Hogue, though, I think was my favorite of all time because he was just such a class act. He's two-time All-American at Georgia and just a class act and just a very, very smart guy. It was just a pleasure to play against him, even though we never got a win against him. So sorry for the long answer for a short question.
I'm thinking maybe there was an answer or a message you didn't get. They're making you block all these guys.
Yeah. Well, they want to make sure I didn't carry the football. I mean, I think my senior year, and I don't know the stats, but I think it was something like 76 catches and 10 carries. So that kind of tells you something if you're the tailback. That look, don't worry about that stuff. You won't make anything happen that way. So just go catch passes.
People would have loved you for fantasy football.
Well, since I know so little about it, I couldn't even begin to tell you. I could fill a thimble with what I know about fantasy football, but yeah, I mean, it was a very special time. Everybody's on the same page. Whit was such a good leader and a great quarterback, and our linemen were good, and yeah, it was just hardly a day goes by that I don't think about those guys and all that. And so it's just that's why you play the game, in my mind.
Ann Arbor says, if you were playing on this team, what would you be doing to turn things around? Are you seeing anyone do it?
Leadership. I think you got to have somebody step up, somebody that a lot of times there are players on a team that are natural leaders, but they don't feel like they've achieved the status. And a lot of times there are players that play on the team that are the best players, and they're just not natural leaders. And somebody somewhere has got to step up. I'm sorry that the old Glory Davis captain as a sophomore, but all I did was cover punts and return kicks and all that. And, but yet I was a team captain. But then when I started getting a bunch of playing time, I felt like I needed to kind of get within myself and understand what is going on and make sure I didn't make any mistakes. And so the leadership thing fell to the side, and, other people stepped up. I think right now what the team needs more than anything else, and it's not something coaches can bring. It's a natural leader stepping up, sometimes even a guy that's not playing that much, stepping up and calling people out.
I think it is a bad sign when at press conferences, the big three were the guys that they put at the forefront of that program. You're not seeing any of those guys at press conferences now. You see Lipscomb some. You're not seeing the quarterbacks for the most part now. Those are usually the team leaders. The two guys you do see are Drew Birchmeyer, who I think Drew is probably the leader of that defense right now. He's a guy that I see that is still bought in and trying to rally people and get some things done. And Justice Shelton Mosley is a guy. Yeah.
And sorry to jump in, but he's locking up on people, and he's playing off blocks, and he's doing a really good job. We called his name a lot Saturday.
Yeah, he and Justice Shelton Mosley are the two guys right now that they are putting in front of the media. And those guys are doing a good job. I don't think they probably want to be there any more than they have to. But point is, I think that's a good indication of who those guys are.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, let's be honest. Another aspect of it is who's well-spoken that they put in front of the microphone. And, sometimes some of your better players aren't that well-spoken. And that, I mean, goodness knows I'm a living, breathing example of that. People that are not well-spoken. But sometimes those people aren't the ones in front of the microphone. But, I think you naturally want to put the people out there that are you know, lack of a better term, again, spreading the gospel, giving the message that the team wants to give, and make, like Nick Saban said, sometimes I'm talking to the press, sometimes I'm talking to the team. And sometimes as a player, you're talking more to the team than you are talking to the media.
Matthew00 says, do you think Derek Mason can turn it around?
Yeah, of course I think Derek can turn it around. I don't know what they're going to do it, but, my suggestion would be to dramatically cut down the playbook on both sides of the ball, and let's find out what we do and what we do well, and let's go out and let's execute that. And if they make some kind of adjustment against what we're doing, then we'll make adjustment to it. It won't be, the first time the players have seen it, but let's go here and let's put our best foot forward. What do we do well? All right, and it's like the first drive last week. It was all passes until they gave a handoff to Keyshawn for a touchdown from about 2 or 3 yards. So, do the unexpected. I mean, right now, what's happened is not working. We're giving up a ton of points. We're not scoring many points. So let's narrow down the playbook and do what we do well.
It sounded to me like maybe at least on defense they've done that. He talked about that today at the press conference. I don't have the exact words in front of me. You can see it on our YouTube channel at VandySports.com. You can hear it in his own words. So it does sound like that has been somewhat a topic of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I've said for really from my playing days, if you can't run a play perfectly 90% of the time, you don't need to be running the play. Because when it comes down to the point in the game where you really need to have it, it needs to be something that you've done so many times. Football is a lot like, and I'll talk about a subject I know nothing about, but karate. I mean, you learn the kicks, you learn everything that you learn, and then it becomes instinctive. And football is the same way. So if you're asking me in the fourth quarter of the fourth game of the year to run a play that we kind of ran a few times leading up to it, I'm probably not up to the task. And I don't know if this will make any sense, but find the antithesis of those plays you run well and run those. Do a mirror to it that all right, well, we know they're going to do this. No, then you do the mirror play back around the other side.
SR Kane says, what in your mind should be the top recruiting priorities for the Commodores?
Oh, went to my area of least understanding. That's great. Recruiting, I don't know. I've just always felt like with recruiting, and that goes back to, again, my days, that you find guys that played a lot of sports that are good at several sports, maybe not everything, but you just find good athletes and you put them on the field, guys that are teachable. But I've always felt, and I remember talking to Coach Kramer, Roy Kramer, about this one time. He said, if you were in charge of the program, what would you do? And I told him, I said, I'd recruit character. I mean, there's nothing like having people of character on your team when you can look around the huddle when it's fourth quarter and the game's on the line, and you look in their eyes and they're there with you. I think character is the biggest thing that I would look at as a recruiter.
I think there's a lot to that. The next question. Do you believe the staff has recruited poorly in previous classes? Do you think the staff has struggled to put a high quality team together once on campus?
I've always been a believer that at Vanderbilt you just get the best players on the campus that you can get, and then you find a place for them in what you do. I think back to Keith Edwards. Keith, I don't know where he is on the all-time catch list, but Keith and I still talk frequently. He's a great friend. I played in front of him. I played. He played as my fullback, and I coached him. And he's just a wonderful human being that you want to have on your side. Somebody that will go out there and get things done. With Alamar Matthews, somebody that started as a safety and wound up as a tight end. Keith played defensive back when he got there. So you just find out what they can do, and it takes a year or two to understand what they can do. And sometimes it takes another year to find out how tough they are. And so I always felt like at Vanderbilt, for the most part, there have been exceptions of Will Walford or, certainly Jay Cutler, but for the most part, you have to manufacture what your players are and teach them how to do it. And from there, you've got to run the offense, defense, or whatever it is that you run to what their strengths are.
Well, and to your point about character, I've been thinking about that a little bit more. Part of that is that's where you get your leaders. That is very much a problem on this team. And I had somebody say to me last year, I don't think people realize how much they are going to miss Justin School and Bruno Reagan. And boy, has that not been a prophecy right there. But I think it was not just the playing part of things, but the leadership part too. I think, boy, that is, and throw Kyle Shermer in there too. I don't think
If he wasn't a leader, he was the default leader anyway because he's a 3.5-year starter.
Yeah, and when you don't have a quarterback who's the guy, then that's not helping either.
Yeah, I was talking with one of my old coaches not long ago, and he said that I asked him why he left Vanderbilt. He said, well, we finished up the 82 season, and I was at a party somewhere, and somebody said, well, next year ought to be great. All we got to do is replace Witt and Norman and Alamar. He said, I got to get out of here. He just, it's just not something, and I'm not talking about the three of us. I'm talking about that's not just something. When people like that leave, it's a vacuum, and somebody's got to step up. And usually, you step up and win a workout. That's when you step up. I'm just a firm believer that games are won and win a workout, spring practice, summer workouts, and then in the season. I think you go into the season games that you're going to win because of all the work you did and all the things that went right.
And as we're talking through this, I'm just thinking too, Norman, Tim Corbin's teams have usually had identifiable leaders. And when he's had teams that weren't as good and you struggled to identify those leaders, I think there was a correlation there.
Yeah, that's what I loved about this team. And I called Joe Fisher after the one of the national championship. I said, this is my all-time favorite Vanderbilt team of all sports. And the point of it, my reason for saying that was there was always somebody stepping up when somebody wasn't getting it done. The leadership was there. And, some days you just don't have it. Some days you can't hit the three-point shot. Some days you can't hit the field goal. You can't see the blocking in front of you. And when you don't have it, somebody else has got to step up. And that's what I loved about that baseball team is if the 1, 2, 3 guys weren't getting it done, the 7, 8, 9 guys would get it done. And that was just beauty to behold.
Yeah, that is very well said. 96 Doors says, outside of a few very elite teams, e.g. Alabama, Georgia, most teams are unable to just line up and methodically drive the ball down their opponent's throat. Instead, college and NFL teams today seem to frequently rely on deception on both sides of the ball. What do you see Vanderbilt doing to create deception? To be clear, I'm not referring to trick plays. Rather, I'm talking about disguising your offensive and defensive formations, not to give away whether you're running, passing, blitzing, etc. I'm asking because I'm not seeing much deception in anything we do.
Yeah, I think you went back and looked at the film Saturday. If you looked at that first drive, I would look at on the field and go, well, we're about to run, and we were passing. And I'd say, well, we're about to run again, and we were passing. And then even when we had the one run on the opening drive, it looked like a pass spread. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely true and clear. We can't line up certainly against SEC teams, but it looks like Saturday against UNLV, we can't line up and just push them off the ball. That we've got to use some amount of deception to make people just not know what's coming. We did the same thing against Northern Illinois, the first two drives. And every time I looked at it, it looked like, well, they're about to give Keyshawn the ball, and then here we were throwing the ball. So, yeah, I think that's a critical point of what's got to be done, because if I look at there, Keyshawn's 8 yards deep, and we're just lined up with two tight ends and everything. We're like, I'm pretty sure I know what's coming here. I don't know which side it's going to go, but I'm pretty sure I know what's coming.
Are you saying you think that they are more unpredictable on the first couple of drives, or is it just the fact that if they are running out of throwing formations and throwing out of running formations, they keep doing that, and therefore teams say, well, we know what they do. They do the opposite of what they show.
Yeah, that's a great question too. I don't even really have an answer for it. I'm not sure. There's so many little things in football. I was watching a game yesterday. It was actually watching the Titans, and they showed the running back's eyes, and this guy's looking over to the left. I'm like, well, here comes a run to the left, and guess what happened? Here comes a run to the left. And linebackers, good linebackers, pick up on stuff like that. They see what you do before the play happens. And a lot of running backs will go out and they'll just look at what side of the field they're going to go to and then try to make sure they understand it. And that's why, as a player, and again, I apologize to everybody for talking about me, but as a player, I would walk out, I'd get in my place, I'd look left, I would look right, I would look left again, every single time, because I didn't want anybody to have any tip off of what I was doing.
Norman, that is it for the mailbag. Anything of note that we didn't get into tonight?
Oh, just, Missouri's coming in here. It's going to be a tough game, but you never know. I earlier was saying it's a game of matchups, but really it's a game of will. If they can summon the will to go out and play the way that they can play, anything can happen on a given Saturday. I still, and guys and ladies, forgive me for saying this, again, going back to the old days, but we went out and played Virginia Tech my senior year with Bruce Smith, and we walked off. They were the number one defense in the country, and we walked off the field with a 45-0 win. And to this day, I'm scratching my head going, how did that happen? So anything can happen on a given Saturday. So hang in there with them.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Chris.
He's Norman Jordan, the color commentator for Vanderbilt football. I am Chris Lee, the host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. We appreciate you listening, and we will have more episodes coming your way later this week.